How's it going, folks? It's Keaton here, and in this video we're going over how to get your first SMMA client fast and blunt. I am going to lay down the law here, so if you get your feelings hurt easily, please exit out of this video. So first of all, I already made a list about like ways that you can go about finding this. It's on the Course Ranks channel, or getting your first client. I mean, the list is not what you need. A lot of people need just a mindset shift and a mindset upgrade to be able to get that first client. So let's talk about that mindset upgrade, because that's probably why you're watching this video. The first thing you need to do is you have to want it, guys. Like, I know that sounds so basic, but there's so many people out there saying, oh, I want to start a business. They're not taking any of the right actions. They're setting up their website. They're, doing their LLC and setting up like all this back end stuff, action faking, as I like to call it, but not actually doing anything that's painful to go get their first client. If you feel resistance, it's probably the right way to be going. If it's painful, if it's uncomfortable, that's probably something that you should be doing. So you have to want it, and just get rid of any self-sabotage, any action faking, anything that's stopping you from actually just doing the work and talking to people. Now, the next thing, once you've really gotten your mindset and saying like, okay, I actually want this to happen. And trust me, guys, I've been there. There's this weird thing where it's sort of like, oh, it'd just be easier if I fail. If I keep trying and then I fail, I can say I tried and then I can just go do something else. But if you actually want to succeed, you actually want to have a successful business and you want to start your own agency, you've got to get rid of that attitude and you have to say, I'm going to succeed no matter what. And then you will. All right, cool. So once you've got all of that out of the way, I want you to think about how you can go about this in the most human way possible. This is what people are begging for nowadays. There's so much automation. There's so much, text messages and emails and everything going out that is just spam and robots and all this stuff. And so the more human you can be, that's the advantage you have over every other big company, every other agency that's just spamming people, is your human touch. So think about how you can be human, how you can go about it with integrity. So that's the first thing I want you to keep in mind. Be human. All right, so the second thing I want you to focus on besides being a human is having honesty and integrity. There's so many people promising the world to the person that they're trying to pitch, and they are having insane imposter syndrome. They're waking up with cold sweats in the middle of the night because they can't actually fulfill on that. And I don't want that to be you. I want you to be completely honest and upfront with the person that ends up being your client. And I promise you that you will have a much more enjoyable experience with that first client. They will trust you more. Like, everything will go over better if you're just honest and have integrity with them. So what does that look like when you're finding your client? So if you've watched any of my videos, you know that the best method, I think, to start getting your clients is just doing research. Pick a niche, start getting on the phone with people inside that niche. So for example, I have a coaching student right now who's trying to go after podiatrists, foot doctors, and he's reaching out to all of these podiatrists and he's saying, hey, I am an experienced marketer. He's experienced at a different field. I'd love to get on the phone and just talk to you about your business model. And in exchange, I can offer a few ideas about how you can market your practice potentially. So that works for him because he has experience marketing in other ways. But what if you don't have any experience at all? Then you could just play a different card. You could say something like, hey, I'm a student learning marketing and I'm interested in this particular niche, or your, the gym or the fitness niche. I'd be interested to learn more about your business model. Can we get on a call? Or just say, hey, I'm a new business owner that's trying to put together a solution for dentists when it comes to marketing. Would you be willing to get on the phone with me and just talk to me about what you've done in the past to market? This is the best way to get on the phone with people and just get the jitters out when it comes to talking to your niche. And it also, when you take notes on that call, it writes your future marketing campaigns for you, because you've already heard your niche talk about their problems in their own words. And so you know how to talk about their problems in their own words as well. And they feel like you understand them. Pretty cool, right? So this begs the question, you're probably wondering, how do I get on these research calls? Warm network. Who do you know? Like, odds are someone you know knows someone that's in the niche you want to go after. Really think about that, because there's people that just won't reach out to their warm network. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like, you have this option. You need to go after that option first and just get on the phone. You're not trying to sell anything. You're just doing research. Okay. All it is. If at the end of the call, they're curious about what you do and they want to potentially work together, then you go down that route. If they're not, you just say, hey, thanks for your time, and you move on. And then you can start reaching out, or you could ask them and say, hey, do you have any other colleagues that I might be able to talk to? And then you just keep going from there. And eventually you're going to find a client through that method. If you've exhausted your warm network, or you just can't find anyone in the niche you want to go after in your warm network, then you can start reaching out to them over Facebook. You can email them. You could just call them up and say, hey, I want to do some research questions with you. Whatever you have to do to get on the phone and do market research, do it. Once you've done about 10 to 15 of those research calls, you're going to find someone who is curious enough to try something out with you. And they're gonna say, when you provide a lot of value to them on the call, and this is the key, once they've provided value to you by answering your questions about their business model, you need to lay it on thick and provide as much value as possible, give them the best advice you know when it comes to marketing. And I promise you, you know more than the average business owner. If you've been listening to any sort of videos like this one or just studying marketing in general, you could tell them, hey, Facebook pixel on your website chat widget on your website, optimize your Google My Business, start running Facebook ads, get on TikTok, whatever it is. Tell them what your tips would be for them and lay it on as thick as you can, just as much value. And I promise you, at the end of one of those calls, someone is going to ask you, who are you? How do I work with you? What are your rates like? And then that will lead into a conversation where you can pitch them on trying your services out. Now, here is where that honesty and integrity bit that I talked about comes into play. You need to start small. You need to say, if you've never had a client before, you don't know how to run things, and probably some of you right now are wondering, oh, I have a media buyer that's going to run things for me. Sure, you can go that route. I don't recommend at the beginning, but if you want to and you pitch them and it works out, great. But if you're running the ads yourself or you're doing the fulfillment yourself, this is what you should do. I would say something like, hey, you're my first client in this industry, and because of that, I want to give you a discount. Typically, for something like this, eventually I'd like to charge, $1,500 a month for it. But because you're giving me a chance, but because you'll be my first client in this space, I'd love to offer it at half off for you at $750 a month plus ad spend, and ad spend will be around $500. And if things don't go well, you're not pleased with the results, I am going to offer you a 100% money back guarantee. And if somebody says no to that, then they're very silly and you should just move on to a different client. And you might be worrying, oh, what if this person takes advantage of me, whatever. If they are nice enough to have gotten on the phone with you, provided you value, you provide them value, you've built a relationship, they see you work hard on this campaign and they're not an unreasonable person, you're probably gonna keep the money, or at least part of it. And I think this is honestly the best way to go about it, because when you shrink your retainer down to $750 or $500 or whatever you wanna do, Josh Gavin started at $97 a month, then their expectations aren't sky high, and you've got the opportunity to learn for free, actually get paid to learn. So that's pretty sweet. And now the last thing we have to cover is what is it that I'm actually pitching to someone on this call when they ask, hey, what do you do? What should my minimum viable agency offer be? What can I offer them? If it were me and I was just starting out, well, I was just starting out a few years ago, right? 3 years ago, I was just starting out. I just offered Facebook ads. That's all I did. That's probably the best way to go. If you want to beef it out just a little bit more and offer something inside, go high level. So you'd get the client to pay you, and then you'd sign up for a high level account, $97 a month, and you pay for all these things. You can set them up in like 5 minutes. Google My Business chat, website chat widget, and then also call tracking and reporting and conversations dashboard where people can communicate and you can see how the client's following up with the leads. That is like tons more value, and it's not that much effort on your part, and it really helps the client stick longer. So I think it's worth doing. But if you're really scared to do that and you just want to stick with the Facebook thing and kind of like finagle a Google Sheets way of like importing the leads, you can do that. I think high level is definitely worth it. But as a beginner, it can be a little bit daunting. And really that's it. So you pitch them, you quote them, whatever price it is. I think the first one I did, I was like, hey, it's typically I charge $2,000, but I'm going to charge you $600, and they went for it. And then I raised it a couple months later. And that's really it, guys. So remember, you have to want it. You have to be a human, just be as human as possible going about this research calls. And then you have to make sure you have honesty and integrity, and just start small so you're not promising something that you can't fulfill, because I promise you it's going to wreck you if you have any sort of a conscience. It definitely did for me at the beginning, even when I wasn't charging that much. It's a lot. And so the more honest you are with yourself and with your clients, the better it will go. You don't have to be too honest. You don't have to like lay everything out and be like, hey, I'm really bad at this, blah, blah, blah. Here's a quick example of what you could say. My second client, when they were coming on board, he was like, hey, have you worked with a lot of orthodontists in the past? I said, hey, I'm working with one right now, and I've got a few others in the pipeline. And it wasn't untrue, but it made me seem a little bit more credible and made him trust me a little bit more. So there's ways to say things that help people trust you without pretending that you're something you're not. Thanks so much for tuning into this video, guys. If you got value out of it, then consider booking a coaching call below. $250 an hour and totally worth it. Tons of people have booked it, never had a negative review. Thanks so much for tuning into this video, and we will see you in the next one.